Four defendants serve a term of life without parole. As to count 4, the offense of attempted murder.
Second, pulled the trigger, the killer's done, now masturbates.
Some killers weep when the verdict is read. Others collapse as if the weight of their crimes finally breaks them. But then, there are those who stare straight into the eyes of the people they've destroyed and smile. In this story, you'll meet 3 very different murderers. One whose knees gave out as the judge sealed his fate, one who mocked grieving parents in open court, and one who used her courtroom time to taunt the family of the woman she killed. Their crimes were different, their reactions unforgettable. And it raises the question, which is worse, the killer who cries or the one who feels nothing at all? It began in Norwood, Ohio on the quiet evening of November 16, 2013. 20-year-old Portia Brooks sat in her car talking with her boyfriend, Aaron Martin Smith. The streetlights were flickering to life. The night felt ordinary, safe. But safety is a fragile thing. In the space of a few seconds, it can vanish forever. Out of the shadows came 3 men. One of them carried a handgun. He walked straight to the passenger side of the car and tapped the barrel against the glass. The man was 23-year-old Jaleel Smith Riley. His tone was flat, almost casual when he ordered Aaron out of the car. Aaron obeyed, hands raised. Riley rifled through his pockets, taking all the cash he had. And then, without a word, he raised the gun to Aaron's head and pulled the trigger. The shot rang through the street. Aaron dropped instantly, but somehow he survived, though the bullet's damage to his brain would change his life forever. Riley turned to Portia. 2 more shots tore into her as she sat in the driver's seat. Shattered glass rained over her lap. Her body slumped forward. She clung to life for 3 days before her injuries finally claimed her. Years later, the families came face to face with Riley in a courtroom. Portia's mother carried a small wooden box containing her daughter's ashes. She had brought it to every hearing. When she addressed Riley, her voice shook but did not break. "This is what I have left because of your greed, your selfishness, your complete disregard for life. This is all I get back."
Because of his greed, his selfishness, his complete disregard of and disrespect of others and life.
Aaron, the man who had been shot in the head, also spoke. His speech was slower now, his voice quieter, but he told Riley that Portia was still with them, as their angel. The air in the courtroom was heavy. Riley had already pleaded guilty to aggravated murder and attempted murder. The families believed the case was over, but mid-sentencing, Riley suddenly announced that he was withdrawing his plea against the advice of his own attorneys. The move opened the door for prosecutors to pursue the death penalty. Some in the courtroom thought he was panicking. Others thought he was trying to take control one last time. Judge Charles Kubicki refused. The plea stood. Riley was sentenced to life without parole, plus 11 additional years for Aaron's shooting. And that's when Riley's legs buckled. He collapsed onto the floor as deputies rushed to help him stand. Some saw a man crushed by the reality of spending every remaining day in a cell. Others saw a performance, a final attempt to show himself as a victim, rather than the man who had turned a quiet November night into a scene of devastation. If Riley's reaction was one of collapse, the next killer took the opposite approach. Not crumbling, but standing tall, wearing defiance like armor. On the morning of February 27, 2012, students at Chardon High School in Ohio were finishing breakfast in the cafeteria. Conversations buzzed over the clatter of trays and the sound of cell phones playing music. Then the room was pierced by a sound that would haunt them forever. 17-year-old TJ Lane had entered, carrying a .22 caliber handgun. Without warning, he opened fire. The chaos was immediate. Students dove behind tables and fled for the doors. 3 young men, Demetrius Hewlin, Daniel Parmertor, and Russell King Jr., were killed. 3 others were wounded. Lane fled the scene but was captured within an hour. The charges were swift and damning: 3 counts of aggravated murder, 2 counts of attempted aggravated murder, and 1 count of felonious assault. The evidence left no doubt, but it was the sentencing hearing that made this case infamous. Lane entered the courtroom wearing a plain white t-shirt. Across the front, in large black letters, he had written a single word: killer. The families of the victims were sitting just feet away. Some expected tears or even an apology. Instead, Lane looked them in the eyes, smirked, and mocked them. He told them they would forever remember the sound of his gun. And then, as if sealing his contempt, he raised his middle finger toward them. The room went silent. Judge David Furry called Lane's crimes heinous, unprovoked, and senseless, sentencing him to 3 consecutive life sentences without parole. Lane didn't flinch. His smirk never faded. For the families, it was a final insult, proof that the boy who had taken their children felt nothing. 2 courtrooms, 2 killers. One crumbles under the weight of justice, the other mocks it. But the third case is different still. A crime born from betrayal, followed by a display in court so cold, it left even seasoned prosecutors stunned. On February 14, 2020 in Las Vegas, a young mother named Kelsey Turner was living in a rental home with her boyfriend and her 2 children. Her life seemed glamorous on the surface. She had worked as a model, appeared in magazines, and posted photos online of a life filled with parties and travel. But beneath the surface, she had a financial arrangement with an older man named Dr. Thomas Burchard, a respected child psychiatrist from California. Burchard had been helping her financially for years. That Valentine's Day, he drove from California to visit her. It was supposed to be a short trip, but within days, his friends were calling police. He wasn't answering his phone. Weeks later, authorities found his body stuffed inside the trunk of an abandoned car. The cause of death: blunt force trauma to the head. The investigation pointed to Turner and her boyfriend. Prosecutors alleged that the murder happened after a heated argument about money and living arrangements. The evidence was strong enough to bring her to trial, but it wasn't just the crime that drew attention. It was the way Turner carried herself in court. At one hearing, while the victim's friends and family sat grieving, Turner appeared calm, even relaxed. She whispered and smiled to her defense team. Witnesses said she seemed more concerned about her appearance than the gravity of the charges. During sentencing, she addressed the court, but her words lacked the raw remorse that grieving families hope to hear. Instead, she shifted blame, painting herself as a victim of circumstance. For Burchard's loved ones, it was a second wound. Not only had they lost someone they loved, but the person responsible refused to acknowledge the depth of that loss. Turner was sentenced to a prison term that ensures she will spend decades behind bars. But for those left behind, no sentence could undo what had been done. 3 different crimes, 3 different killers. One collapses, one mocks, one deflects. And yet the families in each courtroom were left with the same truth. No reaction, no sentence. No display of emotion can bring back the person they lost. Justice can punish the living, but it cannot resurrect the dead. And here's the uncomfortable question these cases leave us with. Which reaction would you rather see in a courtroom? The killer who breaks down, the one who stares back with defiance, or the one who tries to rewrite the story? Or does it even matter when the ending is already written in blood?